Unless half the world's population, who are actually women, step up and take their place with men, it will be very hard for us to build the world that we need in the future.
We feel like we can't fail. We hear so often that women don't get a second chance to fail. Men get to fail all the time, but women get that one chance and that's it. And especially in any kind of innovative field, or if you're trying to make a mark and do something different, you have to fight for your right to fail.
All of you watching this video today, never give up. Hard work, perseverance, support and guidance from mentors and sponsors will take you places.
Promoting women into leadership positions, preparing women to serve in leadership positions is important.
The idea here is to be real and true to yourself. So look at the metaverse as a chance to be more you than you can ever imagine.
We've got to ensure that women have equal access to creating this world, because otherwise we will just duplicate the biases that we have in this world.
Our work is guided by a global strategy on gender equity and equality, which seeks to prevent and respond to gender-based violence, advance women's roles in global discussions on peace and security, and improve women's economic security.
Women are more often asked what could go wrong, and men are more often asked what could go right.
When in my assignments abroad, I've met impressive women who truly have contributed to something major. And they've been reinforced in me no less when I've met women who have harbored great ideas but who could not implement them because of some element of the country's system or society that holds back women's initiative.
So we're looking at government and private sector, especially the big tech companies, to work together to say, look, it's no longer all about shareholder capitalism, it's stakeholder capitalism, right? And women, whether they're in the developed countries or developing countries, need to be part of this system.
Inspiring more and more empowered female tech entrepreneurs to participate will create that tipping point where we no longer feel like we don't belong.
Reporting lets you visualize data about your users and their behavior across your website or app.
Never really would have thought that this platform would be a space for women to not only hear from thought leaders, but also provide solutions, innovations, and ideas to really accelerate, ecosystems and communities that empower women of all different backgrounds and facets.
And as a woman, I love the fact that it is so objective in terms of, it's the numbers. So always about the scoreboard. I'm selling more things. I'm being more successful. And all the gray and the black and white is very clear there in terms of your numbers.
Now, if you know me, you know about my 313, you know about my book, Ditch the Act. And today I'm going to take little snippets and parts to make sure that you know how to best position yourself as a female and also as a male for all you males out there, but this is for the ladies, how to pitch for your career.
And whether you're following along now or you plan to begin your search later, what you will do is open a new browser tab on your device. This way you have your job search tab open in one tab and your tracker sheet, we just spoke about the tracker sheet, open in Google Sheets in your second tab. This way you can go back and forth.
Catering, tutoring, financial, and many more to flourish during the pandemic, while traditional brick and mortar establishments have struggled to survive.
I want you to know, don't give up on yourself. There are people out here like all of us who want to bring you in. We just need to know who you are, and so we can leverage your superpowers to help benefit our company.
There is no force equal to a woman determined to rise. I am powerful, and together we are unstoppable because our girls, our global girls, are our assets.
Hello, everyone. You're welcome to today's session of the seventh edition of the Her Future Summit, and I'm glad to be here. My name is Nee from the Global Startup Ecosystem. You're all welcome to today's session. In some few seconds, we already have one of our speakers ready. In some few seconds, we'll have her climb the stage to talk to us. Thank you.
unless half the world's population, who are actually women, step up and take their place with men, it will be very hard for us to build the world that we need in the future.
We feel like we can't fail. We hear so often that women don't get a second chance to fail. Men get to fail all the time, but women get that one chance and that's it. And especially in any kind of innovative field, or if you're trying to make a mark and do something different, you have to fight for your right to fail.
All of you watching this video today, never give up. Hard work, perseverance, support, and guidance from mentors and sponsors will take you places.
Promoting women into leadership positions, preparing women to serve in leadership positions is important.
The idea here is to be real and true to yourself. So look at the metaverse as a chance to be more you than you can ever imagine.
We've got to ensure that women have equal access to creating this world, because otherwise we will just duplicate the biases that we have in this world.
Our work is guided by a global strategy on gender equity and equality, which seeks to prevent and respond to gender-based violence, advance women's roles in global discussions on peace and security, and improve women's economic security.
Women are more often asked what could go wrong, and men are more often asked what could go right.
When in my assignments abroad, I've met impressive women who truly have
All right, thank you very much. And at this point, we kickstart with Dr. Obi. Dr. Obi,
Hello.
can you hear me? Okay, hi.
Yes.
Welcome.
Hello.
Great to have you.
Pleasure to see you.
Yes.
I am quite delighted to be able to join you at this 7th annual Have Future Summit and to provide a keynote on empowering women through technology, shaping an inclusive future. And so I decided that it would be helpful for us to, in fact, interrogate the issue of an inclusive future before we go to all other things. So we know that the destination that we're all talking about is the same. Shall I continue?
All right. Yes, at this point, I'll leave the stage, so all is yours. I'll come on when you are done. Okay. Thank you very
20
much.
minutes. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay, so I am so delighted to join you, as I already said, at this 7th annual Have Future Summit. And it's the theme with the theme empowering women through technology, shaping an inclusive future. The reason that I'm excited is that, reading through the work that has been done in the last 7 years of this organization, one can only but congratulate the organizers, because the summit stands as a beacon of progress, bringing together the kinds of visionaries that are listening and will be speaking in the course of this year's summit. So very distinguished innovators, young entrepreneurs, investors, policymakers, tech enthusiasts, and visionary leaders. What a privilege to be able to offer a few words in this keynote. This theme that forces us to interrogate what really an inclusive future looks like and how do you shape it, is one that is close to my heart, because as one who chairs the Women Political Leaders Board in Brussels, bringing together women who are politicians, who have been presidents or are currently presidents, prime ministers or currently prime ministers, parliamentarians or former parliamentarians, and women who are in cabinets of countries across the world. It always is important for us to remind our audience that representation matters. All indicators to the importance of representation show that it is correlated to many of the things that citizens of societies aspire to. Citizens want prosperous societies where their well-being continually progressively improve, and that they want societies that are stable, they want societies that are resilient. In all of these, we see that representation very much matters. And so anytime we talk about an inclusive future, it is important for us to at least try to get a grasp of what that future would look like. An inclusive future for us would be one where everyone, regardless of their gender, their ethnicity, their socioeconomic status, their ability, or any other characteristics, as the case may be, has equitable access to opportunities, to resources, to representation. It is a world that is shaped by the principles of fairness, respect, and diversity. And even though these days it appears as if diversity is a pejorative word, we all know that any society that does not recognize its diversity will sooner or later implode. And so where we are today is where all of our voices must say that we do need to have inclusive societies where differences are celebrated as strengths and not as things that divide. Now, on characteristics of an inclusive future, we would be saying an inclusive future must be one where there are equal opportunity. The principle of equal opportunity, is the basis on which co-relationship and coexistence, happens. Everyone having access to education, to healthcare, to technology, to employment without any form of discrimination or systemic barriers. Number two is that it would be representation conscious. So leadership roles, media and decision-making bodies would reflect this kind of diversity in the global population. But it doesn't mean that it sacrifices merit in doing that. Because today, diversity seems to be defined in ways that suggest that people do not merit to be where they are. That's not what we're asking for. We're saying that if you give equal opportunity to people for the things that make people productive, ultimately they would be in a place of merit to be part of representation. And then accessible technology is the kind of thing that we hope that future, that inclusive future, would also reflect innovations that are designed to be inclusive, ensuring that people with disabilities, those in remote areas, they are particularly marginalized, but a future that is inclusive would make sure that they are not forgotten because they are in rural areas. I come from the continent of Africa, and that means that when you look at the number of cities that we have yet, they do not they are just less than a possible. Maybe we have about 15 to 20% of the areas that could be credible global cities yet developed. So more than 80% are undeveloped rural areas not linked to the rest of the world. Collaboration and inclusion would be a principle in such an inclusive future, because communities learn to work together. They understand that small is no longer beautiful, and that the more that they collaborate, the more that scale is gained, and the more that impact happens. And so a collaborative and inclusive principle would be one that helps people to find themselves, to work together. I always say that aside, that people think of partnership as though it were something that is an afterthought, whereas partnership is your most important resource for solving any of the problems of our world. Partnership is number one, knowledge is number two, and finance is number three, in my own ordering. So collaboration and inclusion really speaks to the importance of partnership. And then empathy and understanding. Societies that foster open-mindedness, valuing different perspectives and experiences. So this gives me a pathway into the fact that if we're going to have this kind of society of the future, then it is one that would require the collective effort of all of us, whether you're in government, you're in business, you're in communities, or just at the individual level. We do need to have that. So when your topic says we want to empower women through technology in order to get to that desiderata, or is a desideratum of a place that is called an inclusive future, then it means that we should interrogate what it means to empower women. Empowering women is giving them the kinds of tools, the kinds of resources, the opportunities, and the support that they need in order to take control of their lives, make their own decisions, and achieve their full potential. It's about creating the kind of environments where women can thrive alongside men without barriers being imposed through discrimination, stereotypes, or systemic inequalities, or, gendered approaches that, entrench norms that, hobble or put a hurdle before women. So empowering women is a concept that we've always talked about in the development space. And often people sort of say, what does it really mean? Well, it does mean that we must think of economic empowerment of women. We need to ensure that women have equal access to jobs, to fair wages, and to financial independence. For example, in the technology sector today, we have only 29% of leadership of technology space being by women. Now that is a wide gap, and that kind of a gap makes it even more difficult for you to create the tables where decision making can be conscious of fixing that obvious disparity. So we do need to think in terms of the need for women to have equal access to jobs. I think less than 40% of the people in the sector of STEM in the world are women. And that does not help, because at 33%, that is too low a number to aspire to give us the kind of economic empowerment that we look for. Educational opportunities, providing women and girls with access to quality education and learning resources. I champion a cause for improving learning outcomes. But at what level? At the foundational level, because the foundational level is the bedrock of all future learnings. And yet, today's global data tells us that 6 out of every 10 children are not achieving minimum literacy and numeracy skills by the age of 10. In my continent, it's 9 out of every 10. We cannot ignore that, because in what we found with the data is that it's actually worse with girls. And yet, we know that the pathway to girls becoming part of society and functioning at their optimal potential is education. If they go to school but they are not learning, and they are not learning worse than the boys are not learning, that's a double whammy. And so it is something that we cannot tolerate. All of us must stand against that kind of data. Legal rights and protections. I just go back slightly on the education opportunities. On the education opportunities, we know clearly that many girls drop out of school before they go from, they get frustrated, or socialization forces them to leave school in order to get married. So we still have child marriages amongst girls in different parts of the world. We all must together say, no, a child is a child, not a bride. So making sure that girls can transit from basic education to secondary education, and as much as possible to tertiary level education or skills-based education, as the case may be. It must not be that girls leave school and nobody cares. Then number 3 is legal rights and protections, advocating for laws and policies that safeguard the rights of women and promote gender equality. That is so crucial, because at the end of the day, if there are no codifications, people will tend to be incentivized to do the things that take down opportunities for women. Land titling, for example, in Nigeria or in the rest of Africa, did begin to help women to have that sense of ownership of property. And then leadership and representation, I already said a lot about that. Breaking social barriers, challenging these stereotypes and cultural norms that limit women opportunities. That's an empowering of women, because when women talk about it and society begins to listen, then society just comes together, collaborates, and says, what changes do we have to make? It's a lot of behavior modification that is often needed. And that comes through engagements in the right kinds of dialogues. Evidence-informed dialogues can change things. Finding allies amongst the males to say, wait a minute, these social barriers are inhibiting our women. And the truth is that economic evidence proves it, that actually economic empowerment of women is smart economics. You can only not practice it if you're not smart. That's there's an incentive for policymakers to want to practice economic opportunities for women as a policy and a political direction, because then it will show them as smart. We need to show them that data evidences this. Access to resources, offering tools like healthcare, technology, and mentorship that would enable women in various fields to succeed. So I begin to bring this to a close, because I've got just about, I think, 6 minutes or 7 minutes to say that by 2030, AI is projected to contribute over 15.7 trillion to the global economy. It's a revolution. It's we've had the agrarian revolution, the industrial revolution, the knowledge revolution, the technology revolution, but now it's a different dimension of technology, the disruptive technology era, with AI by 2030 contributing 15.7 trillion to the global economy. What we must immediately think is, what piece of this would be because women are in the sector? And what piece of it would be because women are equipped with the tools to engage the sector? Those are the kinds of things that we should be thinking of. Across every domain, technological advancements will shape new ways of life and work, offering immense potential to solve complex global challenges. So we, as the people who care about these kinds of topics, must be interested in knowing that AI is not just a tool. It is a force that would shape the future of humanity. We don't want that future, that inclusive future of the AI global context to be one that continues to marginalize women. So we must start early. One of the things that I found very interesting recently was I read a research that was done by IBM. And in that research, I found that 74% of male CEOs did say that women leadership of AI is imperative. I mean, that's really something. It means that we have more he for she's as we go into the rest of the 21st century, and we must take advantage of that. It says 73% of business leaders believe that increased female leadership in the sector is important for mitigating gender bias in AI. It says that only 33% of businesses in Europe, Middle East, and Africa have female leaders in charge of making decisions on AI. That immediately tells us something. 33% is not good enough. If we're going to be equal participants in an economy that will be driven within the next 5 years by AI and posting additional 15.7 trillion for our global economy. Even beyond, before AI, just the digital economy contributes 16 trillion to global GDP. In all of this, having only 29% of women holding leadership roles in technology-related fields worldwide is not good enough. The percentage in my continent is even more interesting and more impressive. And I found that very refreshing, because 33% of the leadership in technology is gradually showing 33% of participants in technology are now women. Globally, it is 27%. Now, it means that what I have been saying, that technology is a game changer for Africa, is indeed becoming true. It's a fact. It's one that we're very delighted about. But think of issues like women-led startups. Women-led startups are very disadvantaged. Only 3% globally access global venture funds. In Africa, 2%, or less than 2%, access such funds for startups. But we do need women to have the economic opportunity, and therefore that access to entrepreneurship support, whether it's in funding, or it's in technology, or it's in or support services, or it's in human capital. That is so important, a thing that we must focus on if we're talking about empowering women. Now, let me bring this to an end in the next 3 minutes by saying that I do not canvass only for the things that governments should do and that the private sector should do or communities should do. I also canvass for the things that our girls can do for themselves, as well as our women can do for themselves. For example, it is important that our girls should have aspiration. We should have girls who are just prepared to give their all to their education, so that education and skills development becomes something that they totally are invested in. They want to self-actualize, and therefore they are motivated to drive their journey. And then when they make that implicit decision, then the rest of the pillars that we have spoken about, whether it's in terms of policy, or it's in terms of investment, or it's in terms of institutions and regulatory systems that support them, or it's in terms of ecosystem, such as the one you have built, just being there to help them, or it's in terms of things like mentoring capabilities, mentoring platforms, mentoring systems, or just name it. But the individual young woman, the individual woman must be self-motivated to want to succeed. And then the rest of us will become the cheerleaders saying, of course you can do it. Go ahead and do it. So that means that we must not just give education and skills to our girls. We now need to ensure that there are programs that support them to be strategic leaders, because they need to be strategic leaders. In the world of AI, as we see clearly, it's not just going to be knowing how to use the tool. The soft skills are going to be much more important. And guess what? I think there is data that shows that women are leading in terms of the soft skills that are necessary. So there is an opportunity here. I just want to end on the note that I want the ones who have listened to me today to please embrace courageous leadership. I want them to foster collaboration, find the people, find them. The world is your oyster. Just find them. Don't think small, think big. There's nothing that you dare to aspire to that you cannot find the pathway to it. And there would be people supporting you. Be relentless advocates for all of us. I will never stop advocating for technology. I'm just I don't even know what to call myself. I'm ever so excited about technology. I really believe in it, the power of technology to radically transform people and societies, especially my continent. And for that reason, I thank you for this opportunity. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Can you hear me? I am done.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr.
You gave me 20 minutes, and I think I have used it.
And we are happy
I've used up my 20 minutes.
Yes. A very good 20 minutes has been. I mean, it's been amazing. Hearing from you, your thought leadership is amazing, and it's great I could share your experience with us and all your ideas with us as well. We are really grateful you could join us today, and hopefully we can connect in the future for other adventures as well. Thank you so
Thank you, and I wish you well
much,
with the rest of
Dr.
the program.
For your time with us today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. So that was our first keynote speaker for the session today in the person of Dr. Opie. And it's been an amazing time with her. We're glad she could share her thought leadership with us today. And we'll now transition to our next component of the program today, where we have our CEO give in welcome our CEO, Christine Ntim, to the Hair Future Summit stage. Remember, this is the 7th annual edition of the Hair Future Summit. So without much ado, I'd like to welcome Christine Ntim. Welcome, Christine. Christine, I think you're muted.
So I wanted to give a warm welcome. Hopefully everyone could hear me. I just want to kick off some positive energy and a warm welcome to everyone today for being a part of the Her Future Summit. We're so excited to welcome all of you to the program. My name is Christine Ntim. I'm the CEO of the Global Startup Ecosystem, and we are so proud to introduce and inspire our community with the next annual Her Future Summit. Just to give you a background, today you're going to be amazed. We already had our first keynote speaker come on today and share her thought leadership, her experience, and she has been such an icon, such a legend in the African women empowerment space. And you're going to hear more diverse leaders covering from different industries, from finance to investments to startups to real estate, all different walks of life in the industry, talk about their experience as women in leadership, women in business, and women in innovation. So we're so excited for the lineup that we have in store for you today for the annual Her Future Summit. Just to give you a background before we continue with the schedule at hand, GSC has been around for close to a decade, and we have been one of the largest platforms to accelerate communities around the world. We are home to the world's largest digital accelerator program. We accelerate 1,000 companies every single year. And while we are pioneering in the digital innovation space, we also bring communities together like the Her Future Summit. This is the 7th annual edition of the Her Future Summit. As part of our portfolio of programs, we have over 40 different summit programs in the portfolio are live. Every year we announce new programs, and the Her Future Summit is part of our mission to really galvanize stakeholders around advancing and supporting and empowering women entrepreneurs at all different industries, at all different levels of their career. Our pillars of engagement at GSC to really empower our communities is entrepreneurship, because we believe every challenge that we're facing in society can truly be solved through entrepreneurship. We have seen so many founders and startups disrupt the way things are done in so many different industries, and we're truly excited and empowered to be one of the biggest ecosystem enablers to really support and accelerate entrepreneurship around the world. The second pillar that we operate on in terms of our programs are employment. We understand that globally right now, employment, we are living a crazy global employment crisis amongst the youth, and we are here to empower youth around the world, especially in emerging markets across the African continent, the Middle East, and the Caribbean, to really prepare them for the digital skills of the future, whether it be data analysis, AI, blockchain, or all the other exponential technologies. We are here to really empower them, and we work with Fortune 500 companies around the world to not only train and skill the next generation of young people into the workforce, but also employ them and really help them kick off very empowering careers in the tech industry. And last but not least, education. We're all about educating through our workshops, our webinars, to really continue our mission of empowering people for the digital age and prepare them for what's next. So our 3 pillars of engagement is really how we invite our speakers to the global stages that we bring both virtually and in person person. And last year, if you are part of the 6th annual Her Future Summit, we welcome a variety of different speakers from USAID, from IBM, from Google, all different industries, from the State Department, the U.S. Embassy. We are so proud of their thought leadership, and you're welcome to go on our page to find the videos and clips of their intervention and their contribution to the annual summit. Of course, a year prior, again, we always have an amazing lineup of powerful influencers from across the spectrum providing their thought leadership. And today, I hope that you guys can join me on a phenomenal warm welcome and a round of applause to our amazing lineup this year. So all female lineup this year. Usually we have a diverse gender balanced lineup, but this year we said, let's hear more of our female icon speakers. Let's hear about their journey, their lessons, their challenges, their highs and their lows. Let's get our women inspired again about what's really next. So we're so excited to welcome all of them to the Now, with that said, as we continue, we want to reiterate the theme for 2025 is accelerating progress in the midst of the global economy. In the midst right now, we have a trust recession. Society has really shifted. Our values have really been questioned. A lot of people right now are questioning their identity, questioning their career moves, questioning their state and their position in their life today. And I want to encourage every single female participant, all of our stakeholders, to really think about how do we create solutions for the challenges, not only that women face, but the communities that they serve. How do we promote gender diversity and inclusivity when it's under attack? We have seen the headlines, we have seen the stories, we have seen what's been happening around the world. And I always tell people that is the time for our leaders to step up. That is the time for us to be encouraged. That is the time for us to be louder and more fortified in our mission and our impact in our communities that we serve. So I'm so excited to again welcome our phenomenal lineup for this year, 7th annual Her Future Summit. And without further ado, I want to pass it over to the team so we could continue to light up. I think our next session is going to be an amazing panel. I already looked at the lineup of speakers for this panel. One of them is going to be kickoff for the fireside chat. So Stan, over to you as you continue this dialogue. And it's really an honor. Thank you so much to our entire community for being a part of this journey, especially for the 7th annual Her Future Summit. All the best, and we look forward to seeing many of you on the chat. Thank you so much for being a part of this amazing community. Stan, over to you.
Thank you so much. To introduce our next panel. That is the first panel, and I'll be introducing the speakers. We have expected to be joining us shortly, but before she comes on, we would have a little bit of interlude before we kick.
And as a woman, I love the fact that it is so objective in terms of, it's the numbers. So always about the scoreboard. I'm selling more things. I'm being more successful. And all the gray and the black and white is very clear there in terms of your numbers.
Now, if you know me, you know about my 313, you know about my book, Ditch the Act. And today I'm going to take little snippets and parts to make sure that you know how to best position yourself as a female and also as a male for all you males out there, but this is for the ladies, how to pitch for your career.
And whether you're following along now or you plan to begin your search later, what you will do is open a new browser tab on your device. This way you have your job search tab open in one tab and your tracker sheet, we just spoke about the tracker sheet, open in Google Sheets in your second tab. This way you can go back and forth.
Catering, tutoring, financial, and many more to flourish during the pandemic, while traditional brick and mortar establishments have struggled to survive.
I want you to know, don't give up on yourself. There are people out here like all of us who want to bring you in. We just need to know who you are, and so we can leverage your superpowers to help benefit our company.
There is no force equal to a woman determined to rise. I am powerful, and together we are unstoppable because our girls, our global girls, are our assets.
Okay, welcome back, and it's my pleasure to welcome our speaker for this it's going to be a fireside chat, Alexis Perkins, who is the founder and creative director of Chair One Fitness. I know she's been on many of our summits, and I would like to welcome her back. So welcome, Alexis. Thank you for joining us today.
Good to be here. I'm very excited.
Okay, so yes, happy you could join us today. The theme for our discussion is going to be the digital cooperation and investment ecosystem of the future. And we've seen within this global economy how it has become increasingly digital, and collaboration investment in digital ecosystems are being critical for driving innovation, entrepreneurship, and also economic growth. So I, together with Alexis, will look to explore this evolving landscape of digital cooperation and the role of strategic investments, and how businesses, startups, and investors can navigate the opportunities that challenges us. So to kick this off, I would like you to introduce yourself, Alexis, and in doing that, you could tell us a bit of your journey and what has inspired you to start your respective companies.
Of course. So I'm Alexis Perkins, and I'm the founder and creative director of Chair One Fitness, which is a seated fitness program that caters to anyone who has complications standing. This could be older adults, somebody who is recovering from an injury like a hip replacement, somebody who could potentially be obese and they're just getting started on their weight loss journey, or folks who have arthritis, anything where they have limited mobility and they could benefit from being seated. And I absolutely love being in this space because for people who are able-bodied and we could stand up and walk on our two legs and go to the gym, that's great. But for everybody else, there weren't a lot of options, and we wanted to come in and give them a fun way to stay active. And so that's just a little bit about what we do. And we certify instructors. So therefore, people want to teach, they can take it. Certification, and that's the education piece that I like that she had mentioned earlier about being, the education part of things. And then we also have the digital space, which is our app, and that provides workouts to people all over the world. So that's very exciting that being in a digital space, we could take something that would typically be local to where you live, but now we can reach people all over.
Okay, amazing, and congratulations on your achievements over the years. So we'll go right into the discussion. From your perspective, what do you say are the key opportunities that are emerging within the digital economy, especially for entrepreneurs and businesses that are seeking investments?
Yeah, no, I absolutely love the opportunities that are presented by being in a digital space, and what actually opened up my eyes to that was COVID. Okay, when COVID hit and the world completely kind of sort of shut down for that moment in time, we couldn't be in front of each other's faces. And that is when I started tapping into the digital space. Yeah. The growth was amazing. The growth, not only to be a successful entrepreneur, but just to know that your service can impact people's lives in a positive way. And I believe that can happen for any business, no matter what it is. I'm in the fitness industry and I cater to people of different abilities. However, no matter what space somebody's in, if you can tap into going digital instead of just being in your local area, then you can tap into everybody all over the world. It breaks the boundaries of time. It breaks the boundaries of your zip code, your location, and you can just literally have the world at your fingertips. And I think that's why it's so good for businesses to tap into the digital space.
Okay, great. And I would like to talk about some of the challenges that women face, particularly in accessing funds and investment opportunities. What do you think some of the barriers are that women particularly encounter?
I see things a little different. I don't even like talking about barriers. They do exist, but I believe they can all be jumped. I always say if you have a hurdle in front of you, you can jump it, you can go under it, you can go around it, whatever it may be. And any barrier that a woman faces, I do feel like there's an equal and opposite benefit because there's so many programs that cater to women. And I think that if we were to just lock in and seek out those opportunities. And then as our businesses grow, like the women who are in the space of being entrepreneurs to help provide other women with those same opportunities, then a lot of the barriers would go away. In general, I think that the hurdles are, one, a mindset. And that is, we're often told that, women get paid less in a workspace, and we can sometimes enter into this space already a little defeated. And I think that the first thing women need to do is to get the confidence back and to know, wait, I can do this, I can be successful, and I could overcome any hurdle that is presented in front of me. The second thing is education. And that is taking the time to learn about all the different opportunities that are already out there and figuring out how you can fit in. And a third is connection, getting connected to other people who want to do similar things as you do. Getting connected to people who are investors, getting connected to those who have already had successful businesses. You don't have to create the path. Sometimes you can follow somebody else's.
Okay, amazing. And I believe some of these barriers, in terms of overcoming these barriers, do you think there's any, do you have any piece of advice for women in overcoming some of the barriers that they face?
Yeah, as far as advice to women, and this could go for anyone, but particularly women, when it comes down to the connection piece and not being scared to ask and make some noise about what you're looking for. Sometimes it takes humility and tenacity to get what you want. So for example, hey, I want somebody to invest in my company, but I don't know the first step. Put it out there. You can put it on social media. I'm trying to get somebody to do this. Does anybody know somebody who has done it before? How do you get connected? Joining groups that align with your values and your company values. So for example, if I'm in the health and women's space, maybe I'll go on Facebook and I'll join a group. Or maybe if I just want to focus on business, there are groups everywhere. If you just do a quick Google search, no matter where you are, and some of them are in person and they're local, and others are global, and you can just literally log on and meet with a group of like-minded people. And when you get like-minded people in a same space where everybody is hungry, where everybody is bringing a different skill set, that is where you'll oftentimes find a lot of solutions for your problems. And just to speak on that, I'll give an example.
Thank you for that.
With my company, just an example of how it actually works. When I started Chair One Fitness, I had written the instructor manual. I was like, let me go back a little bit further. When it came down to Tier 1 Fitness, I was teaching local classes and people were asking me, can you teach here? Can you teach there? Can you teach there? And I was all of a sudden spread very thin. And I said, wait a minute, I can't do all of this on my own. Maybe I'll get somebody else to teach the class for me. But they didn't really know what to do. So then I thought, okay, what if I train them? Boom, create an instructor certification. That was the idea. Okay. And then I said, all right, I'm going to write the manual. So I wrote the manual on what we would teach other instructors, but then I got stuck. What now? I knew how to write the manual. I had my degree in communications. I had all of that part, but what's next? How do we turn this into a certification? How do I get a website? How do I get a logo? What should I call it? What is the legal part of this? What about when we get apparel? Where do we get it printed? There were so many questions, so many, down to, wait, I have to go to a networking event. I need a business card. Wait, who should I go to for that? So what happened is that I started asking my friends around me, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And then finally I said, look, I got it to this point. I need somebody like this. I need somebody who knows how to pick it up from here to take it to the next level. And I don't know who it is. And we had a mutual friend and they were like, why don't you just ask Jessica? She's done it before. I was like, you're right. She has done it before. Now, I'm in the United States and I'm on the East Coast. She's on the West Coast. And I literally called her and I said, hey, Jessica, I have this idea. Think you could help me out with it? She was like, heck yeah. And next thing you know, I was flying out to Seattle where she helped me get everything set up, everything, because she knew what to do. So what would have taken years. She was able to wrap it up, put a bow on it in a month. Okay. And next thing you know, website done, graphics done, flyers done, connections done, legal paperwork done. And I was like, woo! So I got to focus on what I was doing, which was the instruction, the video work, the choreography, the networking, the meetings, all of that. But that was all from just talking about it and saying, hey, I need some help with this. You know, what can we do about this? And that's what I mean by putting it out there that you need some help, and you'll be amazed and surprised at who you can get connected to.
Thank you so much. That's amazing advice. Put it out there, true, because you never know who is listening or who is reading or who is going to get in touch with you concerning your challenges. Right. So I want us to discuss this inclusive digital investment ecosystem, particularly how we can create a more inclusive digital investment ecosystem that supports businesses, particularly women-led businesses and initiatives. Is there anything that we should be doing more to support such businesses?
Support businesses? I would say when it comes down to investors who are looking to invest.
Yeah, women-led businesses, particularly within this digital investment ecosystem.
Okay. I think things that could be done to benefit is making it known that these resources are available, because sometimes if they're hard to find, people won't find them and they can be in need. I would say incentivizing somebody sharing it. Like, we're all growing companies, or at least I'm a growing company at this time. So therefore, if it's like, okay, we're going to provide you with this opportunity, but we need you to pay it forward to the next, entrepreneur or to the next business to incentivize that growth. Because many times when people do these things, they'll just stop at one and say, okay, I did it. That person is the recipient. And then it's over from there. I think incentivizing, paying it forward so that we can all see each other continue to grow. And I think within just the application process, vetting people out and making sure that they're serious about what they're doing. And more so than anything, when it comes down to investors helping businesses, is also providing them with the education piece. I remember one time I was offered a $500,000 investment for a 15% stake in my company. But that was all they were going to do. There was going to be no education. There was going to be no leadership, no guidance, no nothing. And I thought, well, I don't want to make mistakes with $500,000. What am I supposed to do? What's the best way to go? I don't know. So many times investors will just throw a dollar at you, but they don't help you. And then you can squander it, make poor decisions. So I think any type of investment needs to come with a level of mentorship and education.
Okay, great. And that leads us to discussing about partnerships, particularly for startups and also other businesses. I know you started on this a little bit, but do you have any advice to give to women entrepreneurs who are looking to build strategic partnerships
yes.
in this digital space?
That's my favorite thing. I am so big on camaraderie over competition. Now, I run Tier 1 Fitness now, but I've done other businesses in the past. And I always believe in camaraderie over competition. Many people do not like to have strategic partnerships because they're too busy competing with one another instead of seeing the benefit that both people can have when they come together. Okay. So that's the first thing, is switching up the mindset. I'm not in competition with you, and not to get, spiritual, but I feel like what God has for me is for me. What God has for you is for you. I can't take it away no matter what anyway. You can't take anything away from me, because what God's got for me is for me. So when it comes down to business, working together is great. Even if it's just, hey, I see that you're in the wellness space and I am in the business space. Can you come tell your story about business? And then I could promote what you do. And the next thing you know, both of your businesses grow because of that strategic partnership. I have so many strategic partnerships. I basically consider it like having good friends. That's what my strategic partnerships are like. And that is, let me help you, you help me. How can I best serve you? And I believe that while we're here on this earth, trying to be successful, trying to grow our business, I believe we are also here to serve and uplift others. And what better way than partnering with somebody where it's like, okay, can you help me with this? And I'll help you with this. It's almost like when you think about going to any type of family function or cookout, somebody's going to bring the chicken because they're better at cooking the chicken. And somebody's going to bring, the mac and cheese or the pasta. it's not all separate. When you bring it all together, you end up with a beautiful spread, a beautiful meal. And that is the power of strategic partnerships. They have worked wonderfully for all of my businesses, every single one. I could not do it without people blessing me or lending their gifts and talents to my company, and then me equally lending mine to theirs.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for sharing that piece of advice. And I want to know if you have any stories to share from any of your businesses, and in doing so, give an advice for things that you wish you knew then that you know now.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Ooh, so many. I would say, okay, so I'm just going to keep it 100% real for those who are listening, because there's some things that people don't tell you. Okay. Keep your business people who you work with and your friendships separate, completely separate. I know that sometimes we want to hire our uncle and our auntie and all of that, but for the big heavy lifting of the work, keep those things separate. It'll save yourself a lot of strife. Okay. Because sometimes your cousin, if you're the boss, they're not going to want to hear what you have to say that day. And I know sometimes they can be there to help, but for any major role, either make it temporary or short term. Okay. All right. That's one thing. And as far as just lessons learned in general, I do believe that you can do any kind of business starting up on a budget. Many people feel like they have to already have capital to start. I would say you don't, and I'm living proof of that. When I started off doing events, it cost about $10,000 to pull off. I had good credit. I was a single mother. I had a child, and I'm thinking, I know that this is going to be profitable, but I don't have an investor at this moment. I had a 0% APR credit card that had Sky Miles on it. So therefore, I racked up everything on the event, paid it off as soon as it came through before any interest hit the account, and I got my Sky Miles. So therefore, there are always ways to navigate. So I would say, as far as problems, is thinking outside the box, always keeping your ideas going, because that is one thing that a problem that I didn't know existed that you can definitely solve just by being innovative and by thinking things through. There's always a way. As far as other lessons that are learned, have a plan and stick to it. And also always stick to the plan and not your mood. Sometimes as entrepreneurs, we can wake up and we can be tired. Who cares? Go do what you said you were going to go do. Okay. Stick to your plan, make a plan. And if you have troubles with plans and procrastination, then I would say get a mentor or an accountability partner. Because when you are an entrepreneur and when you work for yourself, one of the things people don't tell you is everybody thinks that your schedule is so free. You get to go to work when you want to. No, that is not true either. You have to put yourself on a schedule. And that's one of the keys to success is you have to manage yourself when you decide that you want to go into entrepreneurship and business is the management of yourself. Nobody's going to tell you to get up at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. to get started. You have to do that yourself. So that's another thing is just preparing to manage yourself and your time, and you have to hold yourself accountable. I've seen so many people enter into the space not knowing that, and then they're wondering why they're not successful. Well, because you slept in until 9 o'clock and you didn't do what you said you were going to do. So those are just a couple of things that I learned along the way. Self-management is important.
Great. And there's a question from the audience for a new entrepreneur that is starting up. There are bound to be mistakes, but is there anything to avoid? Any mistake that she should avoid?
I would say mistakes to avoid. That's excellent. I should have actually thought this one through before, but let me see here. As far as mistakes to avoid, I would say literally vetting out your ideas in advance, talking them through in detail, because sometimes you can think that you have a great idea or a great creation, and then somebody will be like, no, actually somebody's already done that before and it failed. Then you can learn from that person's fail and say, okay, this is what I can do differently. How are you going to make it different? How are you going to make it special? How are you going to make it improve? And thinking out your success plan, because if it's something, we've had plenty of people who have great ideas, but they don't have a plan. So therefore nothing ever comes of it. So I think thinking it through, talking it through, is this even a good idea in the first place? That's one of the things that I would recommend to those who are starting out, and then literally getting with somebody to help you map out a plan. That's the best thing that I can say is that there's so many things going to be missed. And don't be scared to fail. But the more you have things planned out and the more knowledge you have, you can make an educated decision. Don't just make a decision, make an educated decision. So if you want to start something, you could look up, well, how many other people have been successful and what problems did they encounter? Therefore, you're already preparing yourself. That's like, if I'm about to go to South Africa and I need a plan, right? What am I going to pack? I don't know. Okay, well, I need to know what the weather is. All right, let me look up what the weather is. Okay, it's going to be this. Okay, you know what? It's going to be a little bit hot. Okay, what else do I need to know about this? Okay, well, maybe I might need this or I might need that to pack for my trip. You need to think about that with all of your business ideas. What do I need? So instead of what is the weather, when you're talking about it being tangible, it could be what is the environment like for my idea in this current economy? Is this something that would thrive right now? Or is this something that could work in a digital space? Will it only be local? Is this something that I have to ship? If it's something that I have to ship, if it's a food product, do I have to contact the Food and Drug Administration? Get all the information so that when it's time to fly, you got all your stuff packed and you're equipped. So that's something I think that is imperative to new businesses, new entrepreneurs, is getting as much information as you can. And this may sound silly, but I do it all the time. Take a moment and just map it out. Map it out in your mind. I know this is going to sound silly, but in case this affects somebody in a positive way, I'm going to go ahead and say it. If I was going to do the example of travel, I might say, okay, where am I going? What do I need? Okay, well then I want to go to Paris. Does it require a passport or a visa? Okay, cool. I'm going to need to get a passport or a visa. Okay, it's going to cost this amount of money, so I need to add that to my budget. Okay, when I get there, do I need to, what do they have? Do they have the euro? What do they have? Okay, well, that means I'm going to have to figure out the currency exchange. See how I'm mapping it out in my mind, everything I'm going to need. Same thing with the business. It could be, for example, Tier 1 Fitness. I want to start a program where I train other people. Is there any company that's already doing it? Are they successful? Is there a need for it? Do people want this? What hurdles can you encounter? Like, I'll tell you one that I encountered, since we're talking personal here. One that I encountered was when we created the app, we were originally catering to older adults, but we hit a glitch. And that was, wait a minute, older adults at this time are not always tech savvy. So an app you have to download on iPhone, Android, or Roku, correct? But somebody who's 85 and they don't have an iPhone, they might have a little flip phone. How are you going to get your product to them? So in that moment, it was like, wait, that's a glitch. How are we going to fix that? Wait a minute. We don't cater to the older adult who's not tech savvy. We have to market to their child and or caregiver, because the caregiver is going to be in the house and setting it up for them. The child, if I'm 52 and my mom is 78, I'm going to be the one buying it for her. Hey, mom, I got this new thing. Check it out. So mapping out these things in advance and thinking things through, you will be able to solve problems in advance, and it'll cause things to be so smooth for you in the future. And also calling somebody and talking it out, because sometimes they'll see something that you don't.
Great. Thank you so much. There are some more questions coming in, but let me also, before you give your final word, let me just take a few of the questions that are coming in for you, if you don't mind. So there's some are comments as well. Say, okay, yes. So from your last comment, they've realized that they didn't factor in some portions of the market, and then they have to go to the drawing board. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a question. So in terms of, they have not been used to a lot of digital transformation as a company, and in dealing with clients, they realize that they have to do that. But now how to get a plan to do that is where the struggle is.
Yeah. So with the marketing aspect, right? Okay. Marketing is so key for anything, because I don't care what product somebody has. If you can't market, if you can't sell it, doesn't do anything. So marketing is so important. I will say, I'm so excited right now. I love this question. One of the things that I'll say about marketing is this: taking a moment and literally opening up your mind to where are the opportunities at. Okay. I'm going to use my story as an example because it's crazy and funny and I love it. So when we think about marketing, the first thing you might think about is ads. Ads, you might think, if you're thinking local, you might think television. If you're old school, you might think print. Ads. And if you're new school, then you're thinking, I'm going to run an ad on Facebook or Instagram, whatever it may be. Ads, ads, ads. That's what we think about. But there are so many other opportunities. Like, for example, we talked about it earlier, strategic partnerships. Like, I have a partnership with one company. They send out an email on my behalf and I include them in my newsletter. It's a win-win. It's marketing. It's getting the word out about your business and the service offering. Another one is not social media ads, but using social media collaborations and influencers. Meaning, if I see somebody who looks like they're a part of my demographic and they have 1 million followers, instead of me paying for an ad, I could pay this person just to give me a shout out. Let me tell you how well that works. Literally, our social media jumped 10,000 followers in 24 hours because somebody put up one post. Hot dog. I was like, yes. So utilizing just every single thing that you can think of. Another thing is, depending on your company, don't rule anything out. So I run Chair One Fitness, which caters to older adults and people who need to sit down while working out. A few years ago, we were on Instagram, we were on Facebook, we were on LinkedIn. And then we had the crazy idea, why don't we try TikTok? And at first it was like, why would we try TikTok? We're a chair-based fitness program. I mean, we have a lot of fun, but why would we be on TikTok? But me being me, I said, let's try it. Because if I don't try it, I'm going to wonder what if. So let's try it. Next thing you know, we have more followers on TikTok than on Instagram and Facebook. Who would have thought? And then it was like trending. And then now they want to take the certification. Now they want to download the app. And it was all just because we went on TikTok. So when I say not ruling anything out is a great way when you're mapping out your marketing strategy. If there's a networking event, if there's a conference that caters to your demographic or your whatever product that you're offering, anything like that, just being very, very open-minded. Utilizing PR and different resources. For example, random, your local TV station, they usually have segments. What does yours cater to? So every year at the beginning of the year, I will call my local news station and say, hey, it's new year, new you. Do you need a segment for fitness? Let's just say that your company is women's apparel. Well, then therefore you can call your news station when it's women's month and say, hey, I'm a women-owned business and I cater to women. Is it okay if I come on so that we can talk about this being, Women's History Month, whatever it may be? No matter what it is, you can contact your local news station. I could keep going on and on about marketing and PR, but I'm not. So at the end of the day, this is the question that I ask myself that I think every new business owner and entrepreneur should ask yourself. Did I do my best? Did I do my best? Did I try everything? Did I try it? Or did I say, oh, I'm not going to do that? So if you just ask yourself, did I do my best? I think that'll keep your brain open. Like, did I try everything first? Did I try everything? And if you ask yourself that question, normally another answer will come to you like, wait, I haven't tried that, and I will. Hey, Stan.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's been an amazing session with you. And I think there's so much advice, and I believe the comments, if you see some of the comments here, they're really happy with what you're sharing. Particularly, they can resonate with the TikTok parts where it's something that some of them are saying they didn't really know. They didn't expect to have so much good returns from TikTok. It's something they tried on the women. They're happy they did. So thank you for sharing that as well.
Thank you.
And before you go, do you have any final words for our audience today, our entrepreneurs in the room and influencers in the room as well?
Well, first, thank you to Her Future Summit for even having me. So thank you. Any words? I would say this world is very rewarding. It's also very hard, okay? And when it gets hard, I just want to tell everybody, get back up. It's worth it. And anytime it gets hard, just think about the gym. When you go lift weights, you're sore the next day. But when you look in that mirror and you see that bicep, you're like, yes, I did it. So when things get hard, just consider getting another rep in, because on this journey of business and entrepreneurship, those reps will hurt, but the outcome is amazing. So don't quit, don't stop, keep going. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Alexis. It's been an amazing time with you. And thank you so much for sharing your business journey. It's been really inspirational to entrepreneurs here. And there's a lot to take away. And I'm sure people will connect with you on LinkedIn if you have any further engagements to do. But thank you so much for joining us once again at the Hair Future Summit. It's always a pleasure having you on.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Have a nice day. So that was our fireside chat with Alexis Perkins, who is the founder and creative director of CHEF, discussing the development ecosystem of the future. So I'm really glad to have had her on the session today to share her thought leadership with us. We'll now transition to our next speaker in the person of Alex Shabo, who is the director, who is the head of development and at the UNCTAD. She's also a return speaker, so we are glad she could join us once again for this year speak on the theme for discussion today. It's always a pleasure having her on. And if Tim, you could transition her in. Shabo, who is the head of enterprise development at UNCTAD.
Thank you so much, Stan, for introducing me. And it's so nice to see the energy in this summit. We're all online, but it's great for you, the speaker, to see how enthusiastic, and I fully support her words on the difficult situations we face in entrepreneurship and how to get over.
Welcome, Alex. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Because I already started talking, but I don't know if you heard before.
Okay, I can hear you now. So
okay, thank you.
The stage is all yours, and welcome to the Hair Future.
Thank you so much, Stan, and good morning, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be invited to participate in this summit again. It's my third time, and hearing the previous speaker and how the enthusiasm that came across, even when the sessions are online, it's really nice to see. And I fully support the message of encouragement to women entrepreneurs in difficult times that every entrepreneur faces, and how to keep on going. The reference to a gym was very nice. And yes, I'm leading entrepreneurship development at the UN Trade and Development, and I witnessed firsthand both the challenges and extraordinary opportunities that exist for women entrepreneurs in the rapidly evolving economy. Today, I want to focus on three key areas where we can accelerate the progress in promoting gender diversity and inclusivity in entrepreneurship. Now, first, let's have a look at data. While women represent half of the world's population, they only own about 1/3 of formal small and medium-sized enterprises globally. And in this tech sector, these numbers are even more striking, with women-led startups receiving less than 3% of venture capital funding in recent years. But here's what's exciting. Our research at UNCTAD shows that when women entrepreneurs succeed, they create a powerful multiplier effect. Women typically are more likely to invest profits in their families and communities, are more likely to maintain employee salaries during downturns, and provide more support to communities during economic hardship. This means that supporting women entrepreneurs is not just about gender equality, it's also about smart economics and sustainable development. Now, my second point that I'd like to raise is we're seeing promising developments in digital transformation. Digital platforms and e-commerce are becoming great equalizers for allowing women entrepreneurs to overcome traditional barriers to work and to access markets. During the pandemic, we saw women-led businesses showing remarkable resilience by pivoting to digital solutions. And at UNCTAD, we've documented numerous success stories of women entrepreneurs in developing countries using digital platforms to reach domestic and global markets. Now, however, women still face several challenges when we talk about women empowerment, and we must address the digital gender divide. Globally, women are still 5% likely than men to use the internet, and across low and middle income countries, 15% less likely to use mobile internet. And in addition, women show lower participation associated to career in STEM fields. And this is very important. Most of the recent research into women's participation in entrepreneurship points at barriers related to social reproduction, painting a complex picture of the social and environmental factors that influence women's career choices. We need to teach girls about science, technology, and entrepreneurship earlier in life and actively supporting their choices with education and social support, including reconciling family and care responsibilities. This is why UNCTAD is working with partners to promote digital skills training and entrepreneurial mindsets for women entrepreneurs. Now, my third and last point is that, and perhaps most importantly, we need to transform the entrepreneurial ecosystem itself. What does this mean? Developing more gender responsive policies and regulations, creating targeting training and mentorship for women entrepreneurs, increasing access to finance through innovative instruments and alternative sources, as well as challenging unconscious biases in investment decisions and raising awareness of roles of model women tech entrepreneurs and creating support networks. To give you an example, through UNCTAD's Empretech program, we have trained over 500,000 entrepreneurs across 40 countries, with women making up more than 50% of participants eager to learn. And we see how targeted support can help women entrepreneurs thrive. And let me stress that supporting women entrepreneurship is not just about fairness. It's about unleashing untapped potential for innovation and economic growth. Now, looking ahead, we see tremendous opportunities in emerging technologies. From AI to sustainable transformations, these can offer new windows of opportunity and help level the playing field, but only if we ensure women are active participants in shaping and using these technologies. As we gather here today, I challenge each of us to think about our role in creating a more inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem. The future of entrepreneurship must be inclusive and it must become more female-oriented. At UNCTAD, we're committed to working with all of stakeholders to make this vision a reality. And let me conclude with this thought. When we empower women entrepreneurs, we're not just changing individual lives. We are transforming entire communities and economies. So let's work together to accelerate progress and create the inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystems we want to see. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. I have a quick question here, if you have time. So for young ladies who are aspiring to be like you, do you have any advice for them in terms of career trajectory?
I think it's very important to follow training courses to get to know yourself and what are the areas where you could best contribute to make good career choices. And mentoring, advisory, contact people who are already running businesses to get a clear understanding what this is like and learn as much as possible from others, role models and others. Everybody's always happy to give advice, so that when you start doing something, you feel you're ready, a bit more ready to introduce these footsteps and move forward. So this would be my advice for people who start their career, young women, on how to move forward. So mentoring and advisory. Stan, I think
it's been a real pleasure having you on. It's always, thank you for your leadership over the years and for your support with the Hair Future Summit. And we are glad you could join us once again this year. Hopefully we'll connect in the future as well. Thank you for your leadership today.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that was our keynote speaker for the day, Alex Shapo, who is with the UNCTA. We are glad she could join us for the session today. We'll be transitioning to our next panel, but before that, I'll take a brief break before we go on in our agenda to go to our next panel for the day. We'll be discussing, we'll be delving into the topic about the corporate innovation ecosystem of the future, particularly looking at the opportunity for women. So we'll take a brief break before delving into the next panel. Welcome back. Still the 7th Annual Hair Future Summit. And we are ready for the next panel, which is the Corporate Innovation Ecosystem of the Future, the Opportunity for Women. And to help me with this discussion, we have Claudia Romo Eltman, who is the founder and CEO of We Are Human. She's a Hispanic star and the host of Ala Latina. We also have Tammy Irwin, who is an independent board director of John Deere Forest, F5, York Space Systems, and Skylo. Without wasting my time, I'd like to welcome these ladies to the Hair Future Summit stage. Welcome, ladies. It's a real pleasure to have you on the panel today. We'll kick off the discussion with a little bit of introduction. So if you could kindly introduce yourself and tell us what you do. I'll start with you, Tammy.
Stan, thank you very much. I think you just passed it to me. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
For your introduction.
Well, terrific. Thank you so much. And happy Friday to everyone. It certainly feels like Fridays amidst the tumultuous world we're living in right now are more sacred than ever. So it's wonderful to gather together on this Friday morning. I'm Tammy Irwin. I spent 35 years at Verizon, doing just about every job you could do at Verizon. My last role there, I was the CEO for Verizon Business, where we served customers in 150 countries around the world. And it was an important business on how we think about entrepreneurial work, small business, large business, enterprise, federal government. And so I'm really delighted to be here today representing a portfolio of boards that I'm on today: John Deere, Xerox, F5, York Space Systems, Skylo, to name a few of those that are on that portfolio. But I'm here today because I really do believe that as women, we can accelerate action and go faster against the mission of inclusivity. And we can do it by being super qualified for these roles and making sure that we feel like we belong when we secure those roles. Thanks, Stan.
Right. Thank you, Tammy. And welcome, Busi. I was just kicking off introductions and Tammy just did her introduction. So I'll hand over to Claudia as well to introduce herself, and I'll hand over the panel back to you, Busi.
Hola, thank you so much for having me. And hola, Tammy and Busi. Thank you so much for putting just such a great panel. My name is Claudia Romo Edelman. I'm the founder and the CEO of the World Human Foundation. I have been a global marketer for the last 30 years. I was a global mobilization expert working for organizations like the United Nations, UNICEF, the United Nations Refugee Agency, the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. Been there, done that, always doing pretty much the same thing, which is creating global plans, master plans that could win the heart and mind of people and mobilize 193 countries at a time. And so when I moved to America 10 years ago, I came with that global role, and that was the first ever time that I heard that I was a Hispanic. It's the first time I heard there was a term called Hispanic. I was like, I'm a happy Mexican. What do you mean Hispanic? What is that? And so the more I got to understand this term, and when I got married to an American, I was like, okay, I'm right. That's it. No diplomatic life anymore. I'm staying here. I changed my role in my life and established a new foundation called We Are All Human, not only to try to remind people that we belong to the same human family, because we forget a lot, but also to try to elevate that new group that I belong to, the Latino community. So we have an initiative called the Hispanic Star. It's a great pleasure to be here. I am very focused on Latinas in particular, and I am delighted to see a group of experts in this panel and in this summit.
Fantastic. Nice seeing you all. Welcome, Sophia.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and Daniel, thank you so much for facilitating. Sophia, we're going over introductions. Please give a brief introduction about yourself, and then we'll proceed.
Okay. Thank you so much. So my name is Sophia Swire. I'm a serial social entrepreneur. I've spent the better part of 3 decades working with women in places like Afghanistan, Pakistan, and now more recently throughout the Middle East and North Africa, removing blockages to female flourishing and talent. So back in the 90s, I set up 250 village schools for girls through my first nonprofit, Learning for Life. I then spent several years in Afghanistan, setting up a jewelry school to enable women to enter into the gemstone value chain. And together with a number of extremely talented and experienced and seasoned venture capitalists, I'm now co-founding Jedi, which is a global investment platform catalyzing capital into women-led, tech-enabled ventures across the Middle East, North Africa. And I've always believed that the true untapped resource in our economies and in our world is a untapped potential of women.
So great to see you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sophia, and nice seeing you again. Claudia, I mean, we've just finished CSW, and we've celebrated the 30 years of the Beijing Conference for Women. So what inspired your journey? I mean, you know?
And again, I think that like Sophia, we start way back, and I'm sure that Tammy, I don't know you, but I'm sure that this goes all the way back. Where there's a moment, if you go memory lane, there's a moment that defines who you are and what you do. And for me, I was a teenager where I was in the earthquakes that shoot up Mexico in 1985, and I was able to see firsthand how using my voice was able to gather people to remove a wall and save a kid. And so when I had that firsthand experience, I was like, wow, this is something I want to feel, which is feeling useful. I want to feel giving back. And I was very much inspired from very early on to start doing that and using my voice. So I'm a global mobilization expert. I'm a marketer. I'm a screamer. My father would say always like, you're so loud, you're so loud. Well, I am very loud in trying to mobilize the opinion of people. And I think that what inspired me particularly, like has been inspiring me, is data. Is the data that Sophia was talking about. Like when you start looking at the gender opportunity that we're 50% of the world, and we're like 2% of the opportunities that were like less, 134 years in a gender gap, to be able to be equal. When we are equal in the numbers, then I think that that's what, inspired me very much. I think for me right now, the work that I'm doing for Latinas, specifically in the US, is the fact that when I got married to an American that I knew that I was going to be staying in this country, I realized that because of my choice, my daughter was going to make 50% of the salary, because Latinas make 51 cents of a dollar for the job that any other, a male American does. So I think that for me, coming to the States, having such a global experience, a wealth of experience, having worked in so many different places, seeing how communities have come out of nothing and thrived with a third of what Latinos have, gave me the opportunity to believe in the power of yes, we can do it. We have to actually make sure that women have the conditions to be able to understand, like in the case of Latinas, how to remove the barriers, how to flip the script, how to understand the real power that we have, and make sure that we're presenting ourselves as the assets that we are for society, and creating the networks that we need so that we can support each other in the journey.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I love that element of strengthening our ecosystems and thinking forward, even thinking about the past and using it to propel the future. And Tammy, obviously, you've done amazing stuff, and I'm curious to know what inspires you and what makes Tammy wake up.
Yeah, what a great question, Busey. Thank you. And Claudia, thank you for ending on a highlight of what we can do together as we network as women to lift each other up. Busey, I would tell you that I go all the way back to my childhood, I think, as so many of us do. My father was a physician in a small town community, really wanted to be a farmer. So we did a little bit of both, and we learned the importance of hard work, but we also learned the importance of compassion and kindness and giving back, and to whom much is given, much is expected. And that has been a lifetime principle that I have carried with me. I also believe that we are living in a time that we must be constant students of the world around us. There was a brief mention of data, and if you think about the world in which I have operated over the last 40 years, we saw the introduction of the personal computer, we saw the introduction of the internet, of wireless mobility, and now we're living in a world of AI. The question is, how do we really help other women to understand the potential that is within their grasp, make sure they have the skills and capabilities, and the confidence to be able to reach for what's possible. We know that not only do women represent 50% of the population, but here in the US, greater than 50% of the graduates from college are women. But we are losing women in that cycle post their first job. And so as I think about what inspires me, it inspires me to say, to whom much is given, much is expected. How do we be constant students of life? And how do we constantly learn and give back and accelerate and grow and lead?
Thanks so much, Tammy. That is well received. I mean, I can't believe it's been 5 years since the first Her Future Summit during the pandemic. And happy birthday to Her Future Summit. Sophia and I have been on a number of platforms together, and so has Claudia. And so it's incredible just seeing these journeys, the past, and then seeing how it mirrors into the future. I mean, my situation was at 12 years old, I saw we were robbed at gunpoint. And then I'm half Ugandan, half South African, and I discovered that there was a gap between the haves and the have-nots. And for me, that made me know that, you know what? It's important to bridge these gaps because you make yourself vulnerable if you don't. And so back to the question I wanted to ask, Sophia, based on your experience, I mean, some people have said we have gone back to gone backwards with regard to the Beijing Conference for Women, that if it had been signed this year, people would not probably have signed it. That's how far back we have seemed to have fallen back. There's a school of thought that believes so, and there's a school of thought that doesn't, right? But what do you believe we can do to help us move forward and bridge this gap and connect the dots?
Right. So I'm not so sure that people wouldn't have signed it if it had happened today. I mean, maybe the US might not have done. I think Europe is still a force for innovation, and words like climate, diversity, gender, etc., which are now taboo in certain political environments. And right now I'm actually in Washington, D.C., are certainly not taboo in Europe, and I hope they won't be for some time to come. I mean, the old way, you know, I came of age in the 80s, in the era when greed was good, the bonfire of the vanities. And I think what we see here in my present location is a shift back to the 80s, to that mindset of sort of closed, siloed hierarchies. And I think that the world has moved on really in a very meaningful way to ecosystems where innovation really emerges from collaboration, from values and from inclusion. Certainly my life is all about that. And there is a backlash, there's no question about it. And maybe that's because what people call woke may have been going a little bit too far in the minds of some or many. But I think that for me, it's really a question of how do you change the narrative? How do you reduce dependence on words that were very fashionable for about 5 or 6 years and are now somehow illegal in some? How do you make it screenable? Did you say
sustainable?
Sustainable. Well, sustainable, I mean, you know, obviously investing in women is the most sustainable thing that you can do, but how do you break the perception gap? And I think it's about reframing the narrative and, you know, explain that empowering women is a force for stability and economic nationalism. So frame it, if necessary, in the case of America, in terms of the America First, America Security, and all of the things that are part of this Project 2025 policy. The fact is that investing in women's empowerment, investing in women's education, in their upskilling, and in their businesses, particularly in frontier and emerging markets, is a strategic tool for stability and economic independence, which reduces the need for aid interventions and also for costly military and humanitarian interventions. So, I mean, what I'm going around saying is that, you know, if you whip out all the money from the refugee camps, I mean, I think that the demise of USAID is an absolute travesty. But if you withdraw this money from these countries that are very fragile, and teetering on the verge of total collapse or falling into the hands of radicals, then you're effectively serving up these very fragile communities to these extreme groups. So for me, it's all about investment. I've always felt that investment, sustainable and impact investment, is a strategically very brilliant way to go about this. I think if you can explain to people that investing in women in MENA and beyond, building local supply chains, creating jobs for men as well as women, reducing dependency on foreign aid. These are all core tenets of the America First economic logic. And Donald Trump's legacy of transactional diplomacy and prioritizing outcomes over ideology can actually be leveraged to support high impact results-driven women-led ventures. I mean, as Claudia was saying, the data is there. Women-led businesses produce measurable return on investment. They outperform male-led businesses. They stabilize communities. Women, once they have money, they pour it back into their communities, into the health and education of their families and then their communities. And then this, of course, it can open new markets for US business. So I would say that our role as women leaders is to keep the innovation space inclusive, not to abandon our viewpoints, our ethics, our values, and just keep allocating capital, keep mentoring, keep advocating for more inclusive and diverse policies, and really focus on the data, even though the tide is turning against us.
Data doesn't lie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Claudia and Tammy, do you have any contribution, any suggestions?
I mean, I have to the question, and Sophie has put it so right, so well. But so to the question about the progress and would it, like, are we making progress? How big is the backlash and so on? Look, data, right? If you would be a baby girl flying in the sky today, trying to decide where to land from the cave time to the Middle Ages to 10 years ago, 5 years ago, today is the best time ever to be a woman. Despite all the backlash that we have, there's never been so much access to education, to electricity, to voting rights, to healthcare, to everything that we have. Maybe the progress is challenged, maybe we have some bumps on the road, but the progress that we have made as humanity and gender is undeniable. And I want to make sure that, because what Sophie said is the narrative, we need to be in the winning team. We need to make sure that we know that there's incredible progress, and the data is clear, as we have said. The cases are there. Everybody knows that women-led teams drive innovations. That the best companies have 25%. More likely to outperform profitability when they have women. You have all the data points, and yet it's not happening enough. And now with this backlash to diversity, equity, and inclusion, we feel that there is, even a harder stepping stone that we have to go through. The truth is that the world is browner, more feminine, and with a bigger heart than ever before, with policies or without policies. And innovation through artificial intelligence gives me a lot of optimism and enthusiasm, because it can be a total equalizer. If women are resourceful, women are innovative, the fact that the place to start is making sure that we're at the forefront of technology, to make sure that we are using artificial intelligence through data equity, so that we can be, in a way, making sure that those gaps and the gender area is like AI can invisibilize and flurry those boundaries, those marks that are so great, and can actually educate us and can open the doors for so many different things. And the point is that right now, this is the time to do it. If you ask ChatGPT today, give me the image of 5 doctors in the US, none of them will be a woman. 0 of them will be Latinas for sure. All of them will be white men with, like the same suit pretty much or something. So I feel that we should not be trapped in the negative mindset.
Absolutely.
We should be positive. We should be there's progress to be made, but men, we have made progress. And that we should using the tools and the fast tracks that we have, like artificial intelligence, to advance because it could be a great opportunity to equalize.
Basically, we shouldn't give up, because we could be. It's easy to get discouraged with what people are seeing around, but this is also an opportunity to look forward. Because if you look back and you don't look forward, you'll become like a dinosaur. You'll be extinct. And,
exactly.
Yes, Tammy, any?
Yeah, let me add a couple things if I can. Busey, as you think about looking back, I think it's important to look back and say, what can we learn from the past that helps us shape the future?
Absolutely.
And if I look back at DE&I over the last 10 years, I believe that there were a lot of corporations that said, DE&I means I hire one woman, I hire one person of color, I hire one person from the LGBT community, and it became a numbers game. Check, check, check. As opposed to I invest in the talent that surrounds me, in the communities in which we live, work, and play. Women in the workforce is not a women's issue. It is a leadership and an economic issue. And when we start treating it that way, we don't have winners and losers. We have winners because economically the world is better when you include all of the talent around you. And I think that's a really important factor as we shape moving forward. It's not enough to have representation. You need to have belonging in the community in which you're in. And I think there's a lot of things for us.
Investing in the communities.
It's investing in the community, investing in women, investing in people of color, but not making it a win-lose. This isn't women win while men lose. This is about nurturing our communities, men and women, creating an inclusive environment where everybody has an opportunity to excel, and investing in that talent so this becomes an economic issue as opposed to a women's issue. And I think
because that's also what develops the ego situation.
Exactly right. Exactly. So you have the ability to have leadership and economics guide this conversation, and women, because of the talent we bring to the table, will automatically accelerate in this world.
Can I ask Lucy a question to Tammy, because I'm very curious about her experience as a board member in John Deere. One of the first companies, and as a board member, I can only imagine, like the amount of discussions that you had there, because it is true that there is a sense of being discriminated against. Like my husband has the Edelman Trust Barometer that says that 51% of men feel discriminated, feel discriminated against. And so a lot of the backlash that is coming is because men have protested, right? So could you tell us a little bit more of your experience, particularly because it was early on, much earlier than the comments about we need more masculine energy in corporations and so on, because that's a real interesting conversation.
Claudia, to add on to your points, maybe for Tammy, what about how does one leverage the soft power from women?
Yeah, so two really powerful questions there, and I'll try to answer both of them. Claudia, this expectation of leadership and economics is one I've had for a long period of time that says this is not, women in the workforce is not about women, it's about leadership and economics, because you need men to be part of the conversation in order to really scale the forward progress that I think we as women want to make. I don't know whether your reference as part of John Deere was, we had a social activist, Robbie Starbucks, who some of you may be familiar with, who was very aggressive with the number of companies in suggesting that DE&I was not good for corporations. And I can tell you that as a board member, we had a lot of very active conversations about the importance of diversity in our organization and representation of the communities that we live, work, and play in, but more importantly, inclusivity about how do we make sure that every employee feels as though they belong here and that this is a place where they can grow their career against a set of core values: integrity, respect, accountability, in an environment where people work together against a common mission and against a common goal. I would tell you the other key learning for me in that is there is no God in the internet, and everything you read in the news is not true. And so there was a lot of, I think, misrepresentation of the facts. And so we really had a lot of conversation about how do we represent the facts in the communities so that all of our stakeholders, our employees, our customers, our shareholders, and quite frankly, the communities at large understand that we have tremendous respect and regard for an expectation of inclusivity at John Deere as a place where everyone thrives. I think, Busey, your question was, can I ask you to just repeat it, because I got so passionately fired up about the whole conversation.
The use of soft power, the feminism, our femininity,
Yes, yes,
because
yes.
sometimes there's been a feeling that women have become so men-like, and then sometimes that creates some of that backlash. I mean, and so I'm just asking how you have seen it mirror into your work.
Yeah, I think it's such a fair question as we think about how do we show up as true, authentic women in the workplace. We don't need to try to replicate a man. You think back to the days when women showed up in the corporate work environment and they wore a tie because they needed to belong. They had to wear pantyhose and high heels to show up. And my experience over the years is I've had to be very comfortable in who I am, and who I am as a person is compassionate and kind. But don't confuse that with lacking expectations. And one of my nicknames in the corporate environment was the Velvet Hammer. And that was, she's got clarity of accountability, but she cares deeply about the people that are on the team. And I think women have the unique potential to demonstrate compassion and kindness and care about not only the employee, but the person who cares for the employee, a spouse, a partner, a child that might be part of that community. And when you demonstrate a kindness, a respect, and a compassion for your employee, give them the tools and resources to be successful. That's really what they want. They want a place to be successful. And when we can nurture that, we can really help scale the business forward, and more importantly, people forward.
Wow, thank you so much for that information, because I was just basically asking, I'm going to say what, how do you lead in the workplace, right? And so that will just take us to our next conversation with what advice do you give female founders trying to scale their ventures in today's competitive corporate and investment landscape? Sophia, would you like to take a stab at that?
Sure. I mean, I always say build networks, build coalitions. No one scales alone. Men don't scale alone. They've got the old boys network. They get a lot of help, and women should be getting support as well. So find your tribe, build your tribe, connect with aligned investors early. Do include on your cap table women-led venture capital funds. Do not have only women-led venture capital funds on your cap table, because that you'll find discriminates you for your second and third rounds. At Jedi, we back women with tech-enabled, scalable solutions in climate resilience, education, and financial inclusion. So we're focusing at the moment on female founders across North Africa and the near Middle East. So Jedi probably isn't a home for US founders at the moment, although in future we will be, we hope, having a US centered fund. There are many female-led, female-focused venture capital funds at all stages in the US now, and also across Europe. And do pitch with purpose. Women love to tell their stories, but don't forget the data. Claudia, everyone else was talking about the value and the importance of data. It's critical. And don't just raise money, raise your voice. Your story is part of your edge. So become skilled at public speaking, your narrative, become confident and participate in platforms like this and share your story.
Her story. Yes, thank you so much. I know this, I'll just throw this to anyone can choose this question. What are some of the biggest trends shaping the future of work, and how can women position themselves to take advantage of these shifts?
Busey, if I may, I just want to go back to the previous question about women entrepreneurs.
Sure.
I have a non-for-profit, I have a media company, and I'm launching an alcohol company. And Sophia and I had a pleasure to drink together in Davos, where I was raising my funds. So here's what I think, that the pieces of information of what you don't know when you're a woman entrepreneur are dramatic, because we're not in that game. And I think that what Sophia said is build your network. 40% of the success of an entrepreneur is the people that you know. Build your name and your reputation. We don't invest enough time in being out there, getting aired media, getting profile media. We don't talk about ourselves as, you know, like as you know, because we're like, no, you know, like get the work done, get all the work. And so we work like hell, but we don't build our network. And I do think that the other piece is show up to the places where capital is and where resources is. In this new alcohol company that I'm launching, men are smelling it and getting to the cap table like there's no tomorrow. And if I wouldn't be really intentional, I would already close my cap table with only men that are already investors of the big deals because they smell it and they pass it on to other people and so on. So you really have to open up the space and be intentional and say, like, I need women to come to my cap table, and I need to be an investor in women also, even if you're not a...
We're the ones we have been waiting for. We're the ones we have been waiting for.
Right. And so I think that at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we open up the space to invest and to be invested on when you have, you know, like when you have this opportunity. This is the first time in my life that I'm doing this. My family has been in the, you know, like producing sotol, which is the next big thing after tequila and mezcal, but we never commercialized it. I'm the first woman in the family that gets into the business. Alcohol is a very male-dominated industry, and those women that are in alcohol are supported like nothing. It reminds me of my grandmother, what she used to say: women that support each other will have a place in heaven. And I hope that all other industries would have these, you know, because we're so lonely. It's like, okay, so let's gather and let's support each other. But I think it is important to be intentional about opening the space for who do you want to have in your cap table, and which cap tables can you be part of.
Fantastic. I just, based on what you've just said, I just remember my sister saying, go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. In other words, sometimes we go into the wrong rooms where people are not supportive. And yet there are women who are willing to support, but you are not able to discern that. And those women who are intentional could catapult you to greater heights. Yes. So, and Tammy, any contribution?
Yeah, let me jump in. First of all, I would love to see every woman have the confidence that Claudia just demonstrated. Absolutely. And the confidence and really leaning into her answer, because it comes from her heart and it comes from her mind. And I think when we as women can show up with confidence and clarity in how we communicate, we win half the battle, because the fact is that it's harder for us to show up because people aren't used to us sitting at the table and having that confidence. And sometimes when we do, we get pushed aside, but every woman should be able to demonstrate what Claudia just did. I want to come, Busey, to your question of what should we think about in the future and how do we prepare, what's changing? AI is going to change everything about how we live, how we work, how we play, and it's happening faster than we could have imagined. And if we're not careful, it will have a bigger impact on women than it will on men. Couple of things. Women tend to lack confidence in their capability. If you give women a list of 10 things that they should have and they have 9.5 of the skills, they will say, I'm not confident. You give that same list to men and they'll say, I have 5 of the 10. I'm overly qualified. And so we need to, in a world of AI, really be students of what is AI. How are we using it today in our own world? How are we embracing it as a way that work will get done in the future? And how do we continue to be relevant to the jobs that will be available in the future? 25 to 30% of the jobs that will be available 5 years from now do not exist. And so how do we really understand, be students of the business and say, this is an opportunity to get better and stronger and more confident in what we do? I also want to, if I can at the same time, give a plug for a program called Journey to Lead. I'm a champion for Journey to Lead. Journey to Lead is about developing women that are preparing for the C-suite. There is no cost to participate. We only take 25 women a year, but it's a tremendous opportunity to develop your confidence, your network, your communication. And I would encourage you, if you're at that point in your career, take a look at it and see whether you're a candidate and whether you want to participate.
Thank you so much.
Can you say the name again, Tammy? Tammy, you're such a hero, man. I want to be BFF with you. Okay,
yeah, I'd like to. You're making good alcohol. It's called Journey to Lead.
Please add a link. Could
I
you please
will.
add the link?
Yes, yes,
Yes,
I will.
that's fantastic. I mean, just hearing to you ladies is very inspiring, and it just reminds us that there's a lot we've come so far, but there's a lot to be done, and we can do it, and we should never give up. And it's just incredible to see. Um, just also hearing Claudia's story with the alcohol and how you've tied it together, because right now believe and feel there's a lot of fear that's paralyzing a lot of women, and this is where we need to come in this, because it's like the game plan we had last year in some places has changed. So we have to encourage each other. We have to continue to build and continue to drag our seats to the tables, or if the tables are not accommodating, create our own tables, right? But at the same time, we can do all this concurrently. And yeah, so wow, this is amazing. And if we're about to wrap up, if you're to give one piece of advice to women looking to enter or advance their advance in corporate innovation, what advice would that be? And also, what advice would you tell your younger self? Who wants to go first? Sophia?
Okay, well, I mean, as you say, if the table isn't welcoming, build your own. Don't wait to be invited. And I think the other thing I'd like to say is Claudia is a living example of the fact that you can start a business at any age. You don't have to be in your 20s or 30s. When we hit our 40s and 50s, we're just hitting our prime. And the fact is that women in their 50s are the fastest growing demographic of entrepreneurs globally, and yet are the most excluded from venture capital conversations. So you can start it at any age. I think we need to recognize the value of experience, and the corporate ecosystem of the future. It needs our experience, our networks, and our refusal to settle. And I think my advice to my younger self would be the advice that I gave myself at the age of 25 when I left the city. I left finance, that world of the bonfire of the vanities back in the 80s, to go off on a life of adventure capitalism, off to the Hindu Kush to set up all those schools and live a life of impact, which is feel the fear and do it anyway.
Fantastic. Claudia? Thank you, Sophia.
I would say, look, I set up this media company called La Latina, which is a podcast and a media organization trying to provide the playbook to succeed being your authentic self to Latinas, those 30 million Latinas in the country that are represented only by 1% in senior positions in politics or in corporations, so that we can make it to the top in half the time, in half the process. And I think that when I interview those women that are in the C-suite of corporate America, and we ask them about the playbook to succeed being your authentic self, most of the times it comes to what Tammy and Sophia have been saying, which is build your network, build your confidence, but all about, like, a lot of it comes to being your authentic self, and learning that is a journey. It is how to show up, when to show up. You don't have to wear a tie, but you don't have to always be, so it's learning that piece that I would have loved to know when I was 30 years old, that at the end of the day, if I can read the writing on the wall, it says it's going to be okay. So you're able to take risks, you're able to actually be a woman and not try to, not try to advance too much, but also have the confidence to self-advocate, to self-promote, to, it's going to be okay. So take your time and look at the journey as a whole. But I think that the more we can provide those playbooks to other generations, the more that we can take someone with us, I think that the easier is going to be for our next generations moving forward. So I would say take someone with you take someone with you on this hand and let someone else lift you up.
Fantastic. Tammy?
Okay, I would say pursue your passion, be fearless, and make sure that along the way you take good care of yourself. I'm going to give you a quick story because Justice Day O'Connor has been a woman that I have looked up to for many, many years. And her quick backstory is that she graduated from Stanford University, top of her class as an attorney. She went to find work and nobody would hire her. And she knocked a lot of doors and she finally was offered a job. She could work at no pay, not 50%, no pay, and she had to sit in the secretary pool. And yet she persevered and she became the first Supreme Court justice, first female Supreme Court justice. And I have often admired that tenacity, that ability to be fearless, to lean in and do what she needed to do. And I had the privilege to meet her at one point. I was flying across the country and she was seated across the aisle from me. And I reached over halfway through the flight and I said, Justice Day O'Connor, I have so much respect for your story. Thank you for widening the path for me, because today I sit in a boardroom and I get paid to do that. And she took my hand and she lovingly stroked it and she said, honey, I'm so proud of you. And I share that story because when we bring each other along on the journey, when we widen the path for others, we have the ability to be fearless about how we show up. We have the ability to pursue our passion, and we have the ability to put the oxygen mask on ourselves first, so we have the ability to do all the things that we're capable of doing.
Fantastic. I mean, oops.
What's your timer? We're up. Time's up.
Timer. Yes. So I'll just this has been an amazing panel, and especially we needed to hear those words of wisdom, given the fast evolving marketplace that we find ourselves in. And one of the takeaways is showing up, being intentional about and deliberate about the networks you build, taking risks, having audacity. It's never too late to start a business. And one of the things I also believe is the intergenerational conversation is also very important, because I've experienced it with being in a family where I'm a Gen X with a baby boomer mom, and then is it Gen Z kids and Alpha, and they're all different, but I think we learn from all of these groups. And hearing you ladies show the experience and the way to lead forward, we're in great hands. We just have to keep having hope, even when and learning from our mistakes, and learning from and seeing what are the lessons and what are the opportunities. It's important to look at the history to know what's the future, what it is now, and what the future holds. Thank you, ladies, for this amazing panel. And any social media handles you'd like people to reach you at, or how can you be reached, and what's the best way of getting communicating with you?
So I use LinkedIn. I'm very available on LinkedIn. In fact, I've sent Sophia and Claudia a request this morning because they're amazing women I want to stay in touch with. And Busey, you and I were already connected. So it is a great network and a great way to connect. Thank you for facilitating a beautiful conversation.
Thank you so much, and wishing you a wonderful day and the rest of Women's Month.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you all. Great weekend.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This panel was led by Busey Matiko, who is the president of New York Africa Chamber of Commerce. On the panel, we had Claudia Romo-Alderman, who is the founder and CEO of We Are All Human, a Hispanic star and also the host of Ala Latina. We also had Sophia Swire, who is the founder and CEO of GetEye and Future Brilliance. Also on the panel, we had Tammy Irwin, who is the independent board director of John Deere, Xerox, F5, York Space Systems, and Skylo. It was a real pleasure having these amazing ladies on the panel today to discuss the corporate innovation ecosystem of the future. And I'm sure you did take something away from the discussion today, and we look forward to engaging them as well. As you know, they are active on LinkedIn, so if you you want to engage them on LinkedIn, you are free to do that as well. Okay, take a brief break before we transition to our next session.
And as a woman, I love the fact that it is so objective in terms of, it's the numbers. So always about the scoreboard. I'm selling more things. I'm being more successful. And all the gray and the black and white is very clear there in terms of your numbers.
Now, if you know me, you know about my 313, you know about my book, Ditch the Act. And today I'm going to take little snippets and parts to make sure that you know how to best position yourself as a female and also as a male for all you males out there, but this is for the ladies, how to pitch for your career.
And whether you're following along now or you plan to begin your search later, what you will do is open a new browser tab on your device. This way you have your job search tab open in one tab and your tracker sheet, we just spoke about the tracker sheet, open in Google Sheets in your second tab. This way you can go back and forth.
Catering, tutoring, financial, and many more to flourish during the pandemic, while traditional brick and mortar establishments have struggled to survive.
I want you to know, don't give up on yourself. There are people out here like all of us who want to bring you in. We just need to know who you are, and so we can leverage your superpowers to help benefit our company.
There is no force equal to a woman determined to rise. I am powerful, and together we are unstoppable because our girls, our global girls, are our assets.
Unless half the world's population, who are actually women, step up and take their place with men, it will be very hard for us to build the world that we need in the future.
We feel like we can't fail. We hear so often that women don't get a second chance to fail. Men get to fail all the time, but women get that one chance and that's it. And especially in any kind of innovative field, or if you're trying to make a mark and do something different, you have to fight for your right to fail.
All of you watching this video today, never give up. Hard work, perseverance, support and guidance from mentors and sponsors will take you places.
promoting women into leadership positions, preparing women to serve in leadership positions is important.
The idea here is to be real and true to yourself. So look at the metaverse as a chance to be more you than you can ever imagine.
We've got to ensure that women have equal access to creating this world, because otherwise we will just duplicate the biases that we have in this world.
Our work is guided by a global strategy on gender equity and equality, which seeks to prevent and respond to gender-based violence, advance women's roles in global discussions on peace and security, and improve women's economic security.
Women are more often asked what could go wrong, and men are more often asked what could go right.
When in my assignments abroad, I've met impressive women who truly have contributed to something major. And they've been reinforced in me no less when I've met women who have harbored great ideas but who could not implement them because of some element of the country's system or society that holds back women's initiative.
So we're looking at government and private sector, especially the big tech companies, to work together to say, look, it's no longer all about shareholder capitalism, it's stakeholder capitalism, right? And women, whether they're in the developed countries or developing countries, need to be part of this society.
Inspiring more and more empowered female tech entrepreneurs to participate will create that tipping point where we no longer feel like we don't belong.
Reporting lets you visualize data about your users and their behavior across your website or app.
Never really thought that this platform would be a space for women to not only hear from thought leaders, but also provide solutions, innovations, and ideas to really accelerate, ecosystems and communities that empower women of all different backgrounds and facets.
Okay, welcome back. To close out the session, it's been an amazing session. I'm sure you agree with me. Both panels have been very exciting. The first chat with Alexis and then the powerful women that spoke in the corporate innovation ecosystem panel has been massive. So to close out this amazing 7th annual session of the Hair Future Summit, I would like to welcome back our CEO, Christine and Tim, to give the closing remark and close out this amazing session for the year.
So hi again, apologies for that glitch, but I just wanted to be able to close out just with a little bit of an anecdote. I just did a post on LinkedIn, not only sharing my gratitude for the community being a part of this journey. I mean, we shared with you that this is the 7th annual Her Future Summit. And something I want to share with all of you is that the post I posted on LinkedIn to my entire LinkedIn community was that, a lot of powerful movements start with humble beginnings. My initiation for the Her Future Summit vision really started with me having a conversation with 5 young girls who are trying to break into the tech industry. I've been in the tech industry for over 10 years. I've launched multiple companies. I've had a lot of highs that many of you have witnessed with me in the media, with partnerships and doing really well. But I've also had a lot of lows. And with, entrepreneurship, it's a really tough thing to do, to try to propose a solution to the market, because you believe that things could be done differently. You believe that things could be better, and that you believe that with the challenges that are out there, you see them as opportunities and not hopeless issues that society tends to put off to the side. And as a serial entrepreneur, as someone in the tech industry, that conversation that I had with 5 girls back in 2019 became the first annual Her Future Summit. And today, to have now welcomed over 300 different speakers from around the world, over 20,000 participants, including one of the highest participation rates, which happened during the pandemic, I shared that, 5 years today, this month, we were all at home gathering, convening hearts and minds during the global pandemic. And now we're back to what I would say, back to how things were before. But I do know that things will never be the same. And so I want to end by saying that, just like this movement sparked for a simple, sincere, honest conversation with me mentoring 5 young women, I am pleased to share that, look, like many of these things, you don't know where it's going to go when you begin. And for some of us, maybe we shouldn't have the expectation for it to be big. I think society has really done a disservice to a lot of young people to think that unless something's going to be huge, there's no point in starting. And I like to challenge that today and really inspire many of you to not only be there for our women and girls, but be there for the person closest to you, whether it's your sister, your mother, your auntie, a colleague. Do the right thing and not just encourage them, but recognize their effort, recognize their work, recognize their worth, because sometimes people need to hear that from you. We all have pioneers who are giving grand speeches and powerful messages every day, every single year when it comes to International Women's Month. But sometimes we want to hear those messages from the people that are closest to us. So I encourage all of you to take your part, be a part of the movement. I don't know where the future will hold, but I do know that I look forward to seeing you again, same time, same place next year for the 8th annual Her Future Summit, as we as a stakeholdership continue our part and our contributions to empower women and girls around the world. And I look forward to hearing more powerful, inspiring stories. I look forward to seeing many of you in the field doing amazing work. And I cannot wait to see the beautiful, beautiful, empowering stories that we're going to hear one day about each and every one of you on this call, on this session that's a part of the movement. So thank you so much to everyone for being a part of the annual Her Future Summit. It truly was an honor to be a part of this and to contribute to your time today, and look forward to seeing you again, same time, same place again next year. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Hello all. Thank you for attending this great experiment, and thanks for having
Unless half the world's population, who are actually women, step up and take their place with men, it will be very hard for us to build the world that we need in the future.
We feel like we can't fail. We hear so often that women don't get a second chance to fail. Men get to fail all the time, but women get that one chance and that's it. And especially in any kind of innovative field, or if you're trying to make a mark and do something different, you have to fight for your right to fail.
All of you watching this video today, never give up. Hard work, perseverance, support, and guidance from mentors and sponsors will take you places.
Promoting women into leadership positions, preparing women to serve in leadership positions is important.
The idea here is to be real and true to yourself. So look at the metaverse as a chance to be more you than you can ever imagine.
We've got to ensure that women have equal access to creating this world, because otherwise we will just duplicate the biases that we have in this world.
Our work is guided by a global strategy on gender equity and equality, which seeks to prevent and respond to gender-based violence, advance women's roles in global discussions on peace and security, and improve women's economic security.
Women are more often asked what could go wrong, and men are more often asked what could go right.
When in my assignments abroad, I've met impressive women who truly have contributed to something major. And they've been reinforced in me no less when I've met women who have harbored great ideas but who could not implement them because of some element of the country's system or society that holds back women's initiative.
So we're looking at government and private sector, especially the big tech companies, to work together to say, look, it's no longer all about shareholder capitalism, it's stakeholder capitalism, right? And women, whether they're in the developed countries or developing countries, need to be part of this. So
inspiring more and more empowered female tech entrepreneurs to participate will create that tipping point where we no longer feel like we don't belong.
Reporting lets you visualize data about your users and their behavior across your website or app.
Never really would we have thought that this platform would be a space for women to not only hear from thought leaders, but also provide solutions, innovations, and ideas to really accelerate, ecosystems and communities that empower women of all different backgrounds and facets.